Joining us now, the mayor of Los Angeles, Democrat Eric Garcetti. Also with us, the president of the Open Society Foundation's Patrick Gaspard. The foundation has pledged $130 million global initiative to provide emergency COVID-19 relief to vulnerable populations, which includes Los Angeles. We thank you for that and want to hear more about that. Mayor Garcetti, let's talk, first of all, if you could tell us what's happening in your city in terms of the numbers, in terms of hospitalizations, and if your city is ready for what potentially is to come.
Well, I'm very concerned, but here in Los Angeles, we've held steady. Our available beds have gone up, our deaths have gone down, but there's a lot that's opening up. And my message, especially to young Americans, is young Americans feel absolutely that they are invincible, that they can go out, they can party, they can come together. And we're seeing more and more the data coming back that they are the ones that are spreading in their own homes, in their own kind of neighborhoods and where they live. And I think the message has to be very loud and clear that we might be done with COVID-19, but COVID-19 isn't done with us. So wear those masks, physically distance, and practice all the things that we did such a marvelous job of to save tens of thousands of lives. You can either be a killer or you can be somebody who can save lives. Let's make sure it's the latter.
There seems to be, especially among supporters of President Trump, when you saw at his rally, there are those who do not want to wear masks. There are companies that are opening up that are not necessarily following social distancing guidelines. Are you concerned that the more that that happens, the more that there will be more outbreaks, and then companies that are actually trying to do things right are going to be shut down again?
No question, Mika. There's been so many people left behind in this crisis economically. We've seen this in immigrant communities. We've seen this among African Americans. We've seen so many workers who are in the gig economy. This threatens our economy. This is, of course, first and foremost about saving lives and people's health, but it's also about making sure our economy doesn't shut down again. The smallest things we can do can have the biggest effects, both negatively, but also positively. So we have an education, encouragement, enforcement kind of way of going forward, the 3 E's, I call it. We don't have the resources, nor will this work just by enforcing, and none of us want to have a police state in America. So it's really about educating people and encouraging them, giving, our police officers or our park workers masks to hand out to people when they're not. And I say, real men wear masks, so get over it. Whether it's the president or somebody else, this is an act of love, an act of strengthening the economy, an act of saving lives, not an inconvenience.
It's an act of respect as well, in many ways. It's not hard to do. Patrick Gaspard, this is a $130 million global initiative investment. The mayor mentioned vulnerable populations. Who are you targeting with this money? How is it going to work?
Well, thank you so very much for having me on. And thank you to the mayor for his extraordinary leadership, not just in Los Angeles, but leadership that's partnered with mayors across the country, because none of us are in this by ourselves. Mika, this effort that we've taken on through the Open Society Foundation is intended to help and support and promote the interests of the most vulnerable workers in this economy. You just had Stacey Abrams on. She realizes that when she talked about the police effort, that we don't have a policing crisis, we have a governance crisis. When we look at COVID and the impact of it, we have to appreciate we don't have an unemployment crisis because of COVID. We have a structural economic challenge in this country and a lack of inclusion for gig workers, for domestic workers, and certainly for undocumented workers as well. So through this effort, partnering with Mayor Garcetti, a number of mayors across the country, and with MasterCard, we're providing this debit card that will go directly to these workers, that will enable them to receive resources from government and the philanthropic community in order to take care of their essential needs, because they have proven to be our essential workers. Mika, we know that much of what we hear about immigrant workers in this country is a fiction. Without them, we wouldn't be able to have any food on our tables. And there are so many things from frontline healthcare to our security needs that are taken up by these workers. And we're trying to integrate them into this economy with this work, with direct relief. But we're also saying that Congress, the president, have to take up transformation in future stimulus and beyond that makes it clear that we're all in one boat through this storm.
For sure, and so many people are hurting. There's also, as I reported earlier, major controversies, exactly how to move forward in sports. Mike Barnicle, I'll let you take it to the mayor with that. But first, what's going on with baseball?
Well, with baseball, Mika, the original argument between Major League Baseball, the players, and the commissioner's office was over money, salaries. How much of their salary were they going to get to play a shortened season? I don't think that's any longer the case. I think the case now with Major League Baseball and all the other sports is the biggest opponent they're going to face in terms of getting back on the field, whether it's a football field, a hockey rink, basketball court, or a Major League Baseball stadium like Dodger Stadium. It's going to be the virus. It's going to be players' health. That's going to be the governing factor in how soon, if at all, they come back. But, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask you, Ambassador Gaspard just mentioned what they were doing, what he was doing, and the foundation money that's going to be allotted to specific causes in specific places. I can't think of a city in this country that has been subjected to random violence and planned violence more often than Los Angeles. Watts, Rodney King, you've been through it all. And yet, despite all of the money and all of the good intentions that we've poured into your city, Boston, New York, all the other cities, we still have a clear division among people. In Los Angeles, I mean, you live there, you know it, you run the city. You have a clear division between people growing up in places like Compton and Watts and South Central LA, and compared to other parts of LA, you have a clear division in education, in healthcare access, and in terms of their reaction to policing. What can we do? I mean, we've tried so often, so hard to heal these divisions. Is it ever going to be possible to heal them?
Well, I think it has to be, and we have to not miss this moment. We have to meet it. We're maybe halfway up the mountain. We can look down and certainly see in 1992 how much worse things were, and 50-plus people who had died, and a police chief we couldn't get rid of who said that black people's veins were different than white people's veins, which is why they were dying in chokeholds. We've reduced deaths here every single year for the last 5 years at the hands of police, and now we've cut it in half to just 11 last year, where it was 21 4 years before. But you're exactly right. This is about something bigger than policing. Even as we reimagine policing and reallocate resources, this has to be about people's health, their education, and their economic opportunities. And our racial agenda, I just appointed the first chief equity officer of the city of Los Angeles to look at race across all of our departments, from our airport to our port. And it won't just be done by cities. If we don't have national leadership that fundamentally looks at things like reparations, economic opportunity, that looks at the way the starting line is 50 feet behind if you're black, or often if you're an immigrant and other people of color, we won't get to the truth of this. So let's fix policing, let's make it better, but let's also get to the truth of the economic development. After 1992, it was estimated we needed $6 billion to rebuild South LA, and they raised $400 million. This has to be a national leadership moment, and I don't think this president can step up to it, but hopefully in November we will see a change of the guard and the possibility of finally to make this a multiracial democracy, not just in words, but in practice.
The mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, thank you very much.
Nika,
and the president of the Open Society.
Sorry, Nika.
Oh, sure, Mr. Ambassador, go ahead.
Sorry, Mike's question had some despair in it, and the mayor is right not to despair. There's been a tremendous amount of progress, but we need to be honest about the obstacles in front of us. We don't, like, the policing issue is spoken about without the proper context. The U.S. represents 5% of the global population. We imprison over 20% of those who are in jail around the world, and they're mostly black and brown men. It's really important because that has economic considerations as well. So let's have real truth in order to get to reconciliation and to get to economic inclusion. There's profoundly greater transformation that's needed here beyond policing.
Ambassador Patrick Gaspard, thank you as well for being on this morning.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.